Good evening. I'd like to call this Zoom meeting to order on August 11th, 2020. And at this point, the first thing that we'll do is we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and I will hold a flag for us. Okay, so I'll stand. Here's the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. This Zoom meeting, which is convening pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, and extended by Executive Order 20-112, 20-114, 20-150, and 20-179, allowing local government bodies to conduct meetings of their governing board without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communication media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.545B2 Florida statute. Procedures for public comment will be explained by our technology moderator, Matthew Sabella, shortly. At this time, I'm asking Deanne O'Reilly, our city clerk, to do the roll call. Deanne, please do the roll call.
The members of the City Commission appearing virtually today are Mayor Cookie Kennedy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Phil Hanna.
Here.
Commissioner Diane Flagg.
Here.
Commissioner Edward Hoofnagel.
Here.
Commissioner Joe McCall.
Here.
The members of the City Commission are here and accounted for. Please note that everyone except for the mayor and the technology moderator is now on mute. Technology moderator, Matt Sabella, will you please state the procedures to be followed during this meeting virtually?
Good afternoon. I'm going to ask that when the city clerk, Deanne O'Reilly, calls the name of each member of the Indian Rocks Beach Commission, that you individually confirm that you're here. You're able to hear us and respond. Please note that everyone but myself and the mayor is currently on mute. You should be able to unmute yourself, but if you're having trouble, I can also unmute you. Now we'll take the next few minutes to review the process that's been devised for this meeting. There'll be a, all right, for those of you in the public that would like to speak, please use the chat window to inform me that you'd like to speak, and you will be recognized following the mayor's instructions.
Thank you, Matt. Our number one agenda presentations, both the report of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department and also the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District, are all online for anyone who would like to see them. And with that, we will go to our agenda item number 2, which is public comment. 3-minute time limit per speaker, and any member of the audience may come forward on Zoom and state their name and address with a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Thank you. Is there anyone at this time, Matt, who are on the phones and would like to speak?
Madam Mayor, I don't see any requests at this time.
Thank you. With that, I will close the public comment and we will start with the report of the city attorney. Greg, do you have a report for the commission?
That would be Randy. Go ahead, Randy.
I mean, Greg, I'm happy to know. Thank you, Mayor Randy Morris, city attorney. I have nothing to report at this time except to say that the city manager and I have been in contact pretty much every day since the workshop, and we have scheduled to roll things out. The city manager's already begun doing some diligence in terms of creating the broad sketch of what those ordinances and changes might look like. and we continue to move forward with those. I have nothing further to add, Mayor.
Thank you. Greg, I can barely hear you. So it's a little bit mumbled. I don't know if you need to get closer. Did you say you don't have a report, or you would do have a report?
I do have a report.
Okay.
Yeah. Just give you some updates on projects down at Keegan Clare Park. The county has been undergoing a complete overhaul, remake of the sewer lift station. That's the main sewer lift station in Indian Rocks Beach at the cost of about $2 million. They're nearing completion. They paved our parking lot back today. We'll have to let that sit for a couple of weeks, but sometime early in September, that parking lot by the boat docks and the volleyball nets will be open back up to the public. So we're happy that they completed that project. And I would commend the commission again for selling the city sewer system, because we just saved ourselves $2 million. We just finished a project down at the museum. We replaced all the front windows and replaced a lot of siding on the museum, and that's all been repainted and finished. The Maxwell Lane drainage project, which is around on the north end by Harbor Drive, that was finished about a week ago. We had our first major rain, and knock on my desk, not any water standing there, so that took care of that problem. Next week, our solar panel contractor will begin the installation of the actual solar panels on City Hall and the museum, so you'll see those going up. We just completely rebuilt the one bocce ball court that we have down at Chickasaw Park. We went with artificial turf, so it's greatly improved for you bocce ball court fans. You can go on down to the park and play on that. The Gulf Boulevard undergrounding is still on schedule to be finished in October. As Randy mentioned, the city manager and I began the work to develop the 5 different ordinances that would address the consensus that y'all reached on the top 5 topic areas that we had at the work session about a week ago. And I would just note in the sheriff's department report, and then looking at our code enforcement officer, in the month of July, there were over 100 parking citations written in the city, primarily at the beach accesses. So they actively are pursuing those. And Mayor, that's really all I have, unless y'all have a question for me.
Do any of the commissioners have a comment or a question for the city manager at this time? Please raise your hand. All good? Okay, with that, then I'm going to go to city commission reports. And we will start with Joe McCall. Do we have a report tonight? Is there anything you'd like to say? I'm so happy to see you, even if it's virtually. You're muted. Fix that thing. Says muted. I can't hear you.
There it is.
There you go.
Hey, I finally got it. I got the button.
Okay.
Hallelujah. Actually, at this point, don't really have a lot to go over this evening. So honestly, I'll pass it back to you. Sorry for the disruption there.
No, you're fine. Joe, how's your business? You just got in there. Going well?
I'm probably looking a little tired. It's been long, quite a few long days. It's no, we're enjoying life, but busy, no doubt.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Hufnagel?
Thanks, Cookie. I just wanted to congratulate Greg and Matthew for putting together this Zoom capability. It really has helped us. And at the time we first thought about it, it didn't seem like it was going to be easy to use, but you've made it intuitive and given us a chance to participate in our local government the way we should during these times. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ed. Very thoughtful. Commissioner Flagg?
I think probably the only thing I want to say tonight is we had a very productive visioning session recap today, and I'm looking forward to our city getting the final draft.
Thank you, Diane. Vice Mayor Hannah?
No comment. I know that's surprising to everybody, especially Randy, but I'll just sit back and see what happens.
And I just want to add, I do have a calendar in front of us. It doesn't have a lot of things, but the one thing I will note is that we have an election, a primary, August 20th with and it's at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The polls will be open, and that'll be next Tuesday. And the other thing is, I'm going to come a little closer because I want to make sure that you guys can see this. This was sent to us, and this is all about the consensus. And I would just like to reiterate to the commission that whoever you talk to in the next few weeks while this is still going on, to remind them to either online, call, or do their census. I said consensus. Well, it is a consensus, but census for everybody. I would appreciate that, and our city would appreciate that. So I did want to bring that up. And with that, we are going to move on to additions and deletions. Do we have any tonight? Any additions or deletions that we need to respond to?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Nagel.
Yeah, and for the record, Mayor Kennedy presented the census report card, and you can make that a part of the minutes, please.
Perfect. And just to say, we are 10 points lower than we were 10 years ago. So percentage points as far as how many people have signed it. So I just want to reiterate that. Since we have no additions or deletions, we will go to a consent agenda, which is agenda item number 5. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mayor, if I could read the items on the consent agenda.
You may.
There are 5
Thank you,
items on the
Randy.
consent agenda. Item A is approval of the July 14, 2020 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item B is approval of the July 21st, 2020 city commission budget meeting minutes. Item C is approval of the July 21st, 2020 special city commission minutes. Item D is confirming action taken during the July 21, 2020 special city commission meeting. And item E is authorizing the city manager to enter a 1-year renewal agreement with Public Risk Management for health insurance coverage for fiscal year 2020-2021. Those are all the items on the consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you, Randy. And is there a motion? Ed has made a motion to approve. Is there a second? Phil Hanna, I saw your hand first, so we will say Vice Mayor Hanna made the second. All in favor? Motion carries. And we will move on to our public hearing, which is ordinance number 2020-01. It's a first public hearing. And Randy, I'm going to have you read that. I can't hear you, Randy.
Yes, Mayor, one moment. I'm trying to get to the full ordinance title. This is ordinance number 2020-01, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending the City of Indian Rocks Comprehensive Plan pursuant to the evaluation and appraisal process, section 163.3191 Florida statutes, and the amendment process, section 163.284 Florida statutes, by amending the future land use, transportation and coastal management and conservation elements to reflect changes in Florida statutes, chapter 163 since 2013, updating the future land use element to maintain consistency with the countywide plan for Pinellas County as hereinafter provided, establishing the legal status of the plan, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is a first reading of ordinance number 2020-01 by title only.
Thank you, Randy. And at this time, we'll have Hetty. Hetty, could you give us comments, first of all, as far as where the P&Z, what they said about this ordinance, and also give us an update on the comprehensive plan concerning this ordinance?
Okay. First of all, I'll just start with a little overview in that this is the evaluation and appraisal report that is required through the the state of Florida. Usually it's required every 70 years 7 years if there's something that has changed in the statutes that applies to our local government. And since the state adopted the Perils of Flood amendments, we were obligated to update our comprehensive plan. Most of it was in the coastal management and conservation element. And there's but 6 items that they had us address, including development and redevelopment principles, encouraging the use of best practices for development and redevelopment, identifying site development techniques, and then be consistent with or more stringent than the flood resistant construction requirements with Florida Building Code, and then require that any construction activities seaward of the coastal construction lines established that they're consistent with Chapter 161, and encourage local governments to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. And with that, I did send up a preliminary about a year ago, just trying to address some of those subjects. And they said, well, you also have to address the future land use element, because we had to be consistent with the Pinellas, with Fort Pinellas countywide rules, which really there's a chart in there that ties our future land uses with what their countywide rules are now. Then we also looked at the future land use element data and analysis, and we had to update a few items in there, such as the population projections, existing land use acreage, and level of service. And then in the transportation data and analysis, we updated the level of services. And in the maps, we had to update the future land use map to reflect the 2035 planning horizon. And of course, we had to add a new map for the coastal high hazard area map, which is shows the hazard area, which is all of the city. And then we also updated the transportation maps. And with that, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the following recommendations. They, number one was they wanted to include a goal or an objective to consider the historical integrity or preservation in buildings. And then they wanted to clarify under policy 2.71 that the city is working with Pinellas County to avoid removing sand dunes. And then number 3 was to have the city attorney to draft language in the preamble that says that these future land use categories shall be consistent with the uses listed in Fort Pinellas countywide rules as they exist at the time of this plan's adoption. And then number 4 is to clarify why there were some inconsistencies in the coastal high hazard area map. So.
And if I could briefly add, Mayor, just to the extent that that had language referencing action by the city attorney, the emphasis was on, it already says that it would be consistent with Pinellas County. One member was saying, just to make it explicitly clear, that it say as at this time. In case the Pinellas County ones change and ours are different, it explains the disparity is that they are consistent at the time of adoption. But before making those kinds of modifications, we wanted to bring it to the body. But more to the point, I really wanted to emphasize, because as Hetty noted, this is something that happens only once every 7 years. And I've been with this commission approaching 6 years, and this is the first time we do this. I wanted to really emphasize that as you look at your comprehensive plan from a legal standpoint is seen as your constitution for development. The comprehensive plan is the foundation that your land development code is later built upon. So it's not going to have restrictions as much as it's going to say, these are the objectives, these are the goals, and then your LDC, your land development code, is how you implement those goals. I think that's an important context, especially against the backdrop of the visioning session you had earlier and seeing how this process works in the various phases. Mm-hmm. So this is, though at times I've made, as you consider things that don't often come before you, I make this long-winded speech about quasi-judicial and how this works. This is purely legislative. This is you making those determinations. And so I wanted to make sure you were clear on that. Thank you.
Does anyone on the commission raise your hand if you have a comment or would like to ask a question to either Randy or to Hetty? Phil, I saw you first.
Unless I misunderstood, I think item number 2, removing of sand dunes. I'm not familiar with that, if I heard that correctly.
The language in the current draft says that it will work with Pinellas County concerning the, and I don't have the exact word in front of me at this moment, but concerning the removal of sand dunes. And one of the members said, well, I think the spirit is there, but what you're trying to say is concerning avoiding, and their emphasis was on avoiding the removal. The objective being work together on sand dunes, and they're saying avoiding the removal of or deterioration of or some language like that. And again, that was something that, while that may seem technical, if we're going to make that change, we wanted this body to endorse that.
Ed, you had your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I wanted to thank the Planning and Zoning Board. They did a lot of work on this. I could tell
Yes.
by reading the news. I do have a question, Hetty. Forgetting about the small white dots, isn't the entire city within the coastal high hazard area,
That is,
more or less?
okay, yeah, that is true. And I did clarify with Forward Pinellas because they were the ones that created the map. And basically, it's based on a federal storm surge model of a Cat 1 hurricane.
Sure.
There's areas of slightly higher elevation that are just above the Cat 1 inundation depth, or at least the model believes them to be. If the city has adopted the coastal storm area definition, that would include any areas completely surrounded by the coastal high hazard area. So the whole city would be included. It was mostly a modeling type of map, you know, how those white spots showed up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I thought that was the case. And I think I wanted to draw the commission's attention to objective 2.6. And basically what 2.6 is saying is that wherever possible, if some damage occurs, we want to remove coastal real property from flood zone designations. And then it sets out some criteria to consider in doing that. I have 2 recommendations that I'd like to discuss. One is I'd like to exercise our home rule authority and place something in there that recognizes the significance of historical preservation in determining whether or not we return or reduce the density or intensity. We have home rule. We should exercise our authority to communicate that we like and are encouraging preservation, especially after storm damage. I know that's a high level statement, but bear with me, because the second thing I wanted to say is that I think this overall objective is questionable given that our entire city is in the high flood zone area. And I would prefer that we amend it to reflect that. I could see in the minutes that the Planning and Zoning Board brought that up. And honestly, I think it got swept away, that I don't think there was a real discussion about it. And I think that this is our plan, and we are in a unique situation because we're all in the coastal high hazard area. And I think our plan for our city should reflect our situation and not just be an implementation of FEMA or something that the county wants us to say. So those are my comments. I know they're high level. I'd like to discuss them further if the commission would like to, but my hope is that it will result in some slight rewording of these objectives and give us a chance to exercise our home rule authority. Thank you.
Randy, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the comment. I don't know that necessarily it got swept under. The explanation provided at the time in the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, as best as I can personally recollect, was that in that language, and candidly, I agree that, you know, the language could certainly be enhanced in some ways to reflect both notions, but the opening clauses of shall encourage the use of best practices, development and redevelopment principles, strategies, engineering solutions was, we're not saying the proposal is not to take properties and lift them and remove them from the city's boundaries, but rather as those things happen using best construction practices, et cetera, And that was the explanation staff had given at the time. So it was addressed, though maybe not to the satisfaction of Commissioner Hoofnagel or some of the members. That was the explanation provided as to what that objective's perceived aim was.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? Greg, you want to add something? Would you like to add a comment, Greg?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that maybe give Hetty another opportunity to, in addition to Randy's comment. Hetty, do you have any other comments about what Ed brings up?
Well, I think we recently did in the LDRs that, I mean, they could rebuild the structure, you know, within 6 months as it exists under non-conforming uses. So in that way, we do allow them to rebuild with, you know, using maybe some new floodproofing or something, not necessarily having them to elevate the buildings. So there are ways to work with it, with different, structures that have been, damaged by flood.
Yeah. No,
6 months seems like an awful short period of time after
Well, they have to
something that catastrophic.
apply for the permit.
Okay, that's better.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, there's still things that they have to apply with their flood insurance too. So those, it's a two-way street here. We want them to rebuild, but are they going to be able to get insurance? And we don't run, the insurance program. So
Correct.
that's
Greg.
the issue you run into.
Greg, did you want to add something?
I did. I appreciate that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up though a little bit.
Speaking pretty loud. The land code, their city code says that you have to apply and apply for a permit. But I'll just tell you quite frankly, and there again, I'm gonna knock on some wood here. Hopefully, we don't have a catastrophic storm, but if we did, under emergency declarations, we would have the ability to give people extensions throughout the city for additional time to get their permits. And like Hetty just mentioned, one of the biggest hurdles is figuring out your insurance and what you're going to be allowed to build back to begin with. So, 6 months is in the code, but under those kind of circumstances, I probably would be coming to the commission saying, let's extend the permitting period for a longer period of time just to accommodate people if we were to have that type of situation. So there's ways to deal with that, is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Greg. Ed, did you want to add something? Because I saw your hand go up.
I thank you, Cookie. I just think I'd like to propose modifying that objective 2.6 to explicitly recognize that we are entirely encompassed within the coastal high hazard area, and that it's unrealistic as an objective that we want to remove coastal real property from the flood zone designations. That's not realistic. It's not part of our plan. It needs to be, I think, edited to reflect our reality of our city.
I mean, I was going to say, we're not saying to remove them, but they could be built, to flood standards. Or rebuild if you're found, the footings are still there, you can build up from there. So not taking away property.
I think the point that Commissioner Hoofnagel is making is the explicit language does suggest, it says the removal of coastal real property from flood zone designations, not necessarily the removal of flood insecurities or weaknesses or, not less than ideal construction materials. And so Commissioner Hoofnagel, as I understand your comments, and if I'm mischaracterizing them, please let me know. You're asking your peers to consider reworking that objective to excise the language about the removal and say perhaps to better optimize construction within that, with some recognition in that language that the entire city sits within this designation.
Thank you, Randy.
Is that accurate?
That is exactly what I was proposing. Thank you. And in addition, I was suggesting that we exercise our home rule authority by placing recognition of historical significance that we as a city determine is historically significant, because I read the minutes where it said only the state determines what is historically significant, and I disagree with that completely. And I'm I'm tired of the state telling us what we can and can't do.
Very good, Ed. Did any of the commissioners want to make a comment to Ed's point and having us add this to the 4 pieces that were brought to us by the Planning and Zoning Board? Do any of you raise your hand if you want to say something? Phil?
I agree. I think the clarification needs to be made because the removal of just sounds like it's gone. And I wholeheartedly agree with that on the exercising our own rule. Maybe if we did that a little more often, we wouldn't lose our rights as quickly as we do. So, thank you.
Paul, do you want to add anything? Are you in agreement or?
I don't know if I didn't hear if it was my name, but.
Yes, it was yours.
Oh, thank you. I thought you said Bob. Sorry. It's been a long day. No, I 100% agree with that. I think those are both fantastic suggestions and additions.
Since we're talking about an ordinance, might I suggest, given the general spirit of the discussion, that we get a motion to amend Objective 2.6 in the manner discussed in a second, and then also have public comment on that, as that it would be an official act.
Yes, sir. Do we have a motion? Ed, would you like to make a motion on your 2.6?
Sure. Yeah, I would make a motion to modify Objective 2.6 to eliminate the reference to removal of coastal property from the flood zone designations, given that we're completely encompassed in a flood zone. And I would like to further amend policy 2.6.1 to include consideration of historical significance as determined by the city commission or its delegate.
Commissioner, just for clarity as a matter of process, is that a single proposed amendment or are you proposing, do you want that done as a single motion or as 2 separate motions?
I'm indifferent, whichever's more efficient.
That's really a matter of choice, only because, from a political standpoint and process, your motion as made is 2 actions. And so they succeed and die together, procedurally speaking. And so if there were a division of that, it would be you're voting on them as the motion maker has made it, assuming there's a second. So I just wanted to make sure I understood your motion.
I'll reserve the right to motion if something fails. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to go with Joe McCall this time as the second. And for discussion, is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Hofnagel?
No, I just wanted to again thank Hetty for all the hard work that was done here in the Planning and Zoning Board. I know that they really spent a lot of time on this, and it's well appreciated.
Thank you, Ed. Commissioner McCall, unmute yourself. No comment. Commissioner Flagg, did you want to say anything? You're okay? Okay. And Phil? Everybody's okay? Okay. City Manager Mims, would you like to say something?
Well, I was going to remind you that you might want to check with Matt and see if there's anybody that's logged on that wants to comment on this agenda item.
Well, I was going to that. I hadn't had a chance yet, but yes, I agree with you on that. I just wanted to make a quick mention that, as both the maker and Phil Hanna made mention of the fact is, we should be exercising home rule a lot more. And I appreciate your insight, Ed Hofnagel, on this piece with the 2.6 and the 2.61. With that, our technical advisor, Matt, is there anyone on phones that would like to speak on this item?
Madam Mayor, I don't see any responses in the chat. However, earlier I did see that John Thayer had his hand up. He did since put his hand down to give him the opportunity to unmute himself if he'd like to.
John, would you like to speak?
Yes. Yes, I
Say
want
your name, your full name,
All right.
and your address.
My name is John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard. I wanted to speak during the 3-minute open period, and I just learned how to use this Zoom this afternoon for the other one, but and then you had to raise your hand. Then he went to chat. Before I could even type anything on chat, y'all blew off of that and started again. You're going to have to allow a little more time for us to get used to this video stuff.
I hear you.
So my comment was a comment not on this, but on another subject. And if you want to keep going on the meeting, I'll just start sending emails to the commission. Since we're doing everything here.
Maybe I would just propose that we let John speak after we're finished with this business.
That's what I was thinking. John, if you hold on, let us take, if there's anyone else that wants to speak, and then once we're done and we make our vote, hang on, and then we'll let you speak. How's that?
That'd be fine. End of the meeting, whatever works for you. Thank you.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We're learning too. With that, Deanne, Matt, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item?
Madam Mayor, I see no other requests to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And with that, Deanne, would you please call the roll?
Deanne, before we begin, I just want to be very clear. We're presently voting on Commissioner Hoofnagel's amendment, and I vote is in favor of the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Flag,
Yes.
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoofnagel,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Before I ask for John to speak, are we going to go back again to this same item, the same commission agenda item, or we're
The
done?
ordinance is not complete yet, Mayor. We've
We gotta
only
keep
passed
going.
on, we've only passed on the amendment to it. If there's any other discussion on the ordinance or its ultimate adoption, I would suggest we resolve this particular agenda item and then follow up on any other comments or matters.
Okay, all right, so is there any other comments as far as the commission on the original agenda item that we are speaking on? If not, Matt, I'd like to open the comments to the public. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item as a whole?
I'm sending out a chat message to everyone. Sorry for the delay. Seeing no requests at this time.
Thank you, Matt. With that, do we have a motion for ordinance number 2020-01 at first public hearing?
Mayor, does this include the remarks and the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, it does.
They've been advised of those recommendations. The commission's only action at this point is the proposed amendment by Commissioner Hoofnagel. So any motion on the ordinance would be a motion to approve as presently amended and nothing further. Commissioner Hoofnagel?
I would make a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations also.
So I just want to make sure I again, for procedurally, and forgive me if I'm being a little pedantic, I did a whole lecture on parliamentary procedure today with the Florida League of Cities, but so your motion is to incorporate all proposed amendments or recommendations by the Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Flagg, would you like to make a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Hoofnagel, a second by Commissioner Flagg. Do you have any comments, Commissioner Ed?
No additional comments.
Commissioner Flagg, do you have any comments? Okay, any of the other commissioners have any comments on this motion? Hearing none.
Public comment.
Public comment. Matt, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this motion?
Madam Mayor, none at this time.
Thank you, Matt. With that, Deanne, would you call the roll?
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Flag,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoofnagel,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, John, are you still on the line?
Can I just add one thing, Cookie? I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
want to let you know that this has to be sent to the state, that, Department, DEP, DOT, for Pinellas adjoining, it's like a 30-day review period. Then they'll send us comments back. And then we hopefully won't have to address any comments by the state. But if we do in the second reading, that those will be addressed.
Procedurally, Mayor, we're still not done. We just passed on Commissioner Hoofnagel's second amendment. The ordinance at large or in full as amended would need approval.
I thought that's what we just voted on.
No, you presently voted, Commissioner Hoofnagel made a motion to amend the ordinance to incorporate the Planning and Zoning Board's identified recommendations. That was seconded by Madam Flagg. And so it's now been amended in that fashion. Yes, Commissioner Hoofnagel?
I was going to make a motion then to approve ordinance number 2020-01 as amended.
Thank you for the motion, Commissioner.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Flagg has seconded it. Is there any more comments from the motion or the maker or the second? Hearing none. Any of the other commissioners, and would you all like to make a comment? Vice Mayor Hannah, you all good? Okay. With that,
Public comment, Mayor.
I know
Okay, sorry.
that I'd like to go out to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this motion?
Being that the technology is new, I'm going to go ahead and request that if you'd like to speak, since I see no action in the chat window nor hands up, you may unmute yourself at this time. And please identify yourself by name and address, please. Seeing none, we're going to close the public comment.
With that, Deanne, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hannah,
Yes.
Commissioner Flagg,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoofnagel,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, I'm gonna try this one more time. John, are you still there? Are you with us? We'd like to
Yes,
hear
I'm
your
here.
comment. Hi, John.
How are you doing? Sorry
Good.
for.
Thank you for putting
messing
up with
the,
us.
sorry for messing up the meeting.
No, you're fine.
I learned this afternoon in the meeting that these e-scooters apparently have been okay to go wherever they want by our wonderful governor in the state of Florida. And the only way we can eliminate those things is to pass an ordinance and say we don't want them in Indian Rocks Beach. And I agree with Commissioner Hoofnagel. We should do that quickly before they change their mind and allow them everywhere like Airbnbs. That's
Good
my
deal.
first comment. On a
Okay,
related,
what's your second one?
on a related subject, related safety issue is the reason I wanted to talk. Electric bikes on the beach. I'm sitting on the beach most nights watching sundown, and there's several electric bikes on the beach, and those things are flying. One is a
Yes,
black
they
one.
are.
One is a black one with a huge headlight. He's got to be going over 10 miles an hour, and that's all down through the bathers. He almost hit me last night at 9:30. The second one is got a lot of red lights and a lot of music coming off of it, and he's going a little slower, but these things are still, if a little kid turned around and ran down with their bucket on the beach and they hit somebody, these things are moving. According to section 7461 in your codes, we don't prohibit motorized vehicles on the beach. The beach signs only say official vehicles on beach only. I don't know what an official vehicle is. What's a vehicle? Does that mean when I pull the grandkids down there in a four-wheel beach wagon, that's a vehicle? My suggestion is we define vehicles and we clarify that, and we ban motorized vehicles from the beach. And we got to say motorized, because this is only going to get worse. And that's my comment for this evening.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
With that, I think we will go to agenda item number 7, and that is other legislative matters. We do not have any tonight. We don't have any work session items. Is there any other business to come before this board or any other comments from the commission?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ed?
Just maybe push it out to Greg and Randy to determine whether we could have a work session to discuss motorized vehicles on the beach.
Greg? Yes.
We can
Okay.
do that, and commissioners, I would say the memorandum that I provided you concerning golf carts also has some exposition about these different mobility devices and what the law is on those, as we anticipated in drafting the golf cart memo, that all forms of transportation would come under review. So if you desire to get a jump on that, there's some really great reading out there by a fantastic author.
Well, isn't that nice? All right, is there any other business to come before this board? I just want to say to the commission, I appreciate you, a double header today. Everybody was great, a lot of great comments and insight from all of you. I appreciate all of you. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, Ed, second. Diane Flagg. All in favor? Motion carries. We'll see you soon. Bye.